OnlyFans lawyer returns with smoke, but she gets shut down by the panel.
You know what I'm saying? That's why.
I'm just giving you my honest opinion. No, you kicked me off last time for the stats.
Look, I didn't. Let me make this extremely clear. I didn't kick you off because of your opinions. I kicked you off because you were hurting the quality of the show and you were annoying.
What is hurting the
guest.
quality? Well, yeah, I'm gonna annoy the chat when I disagree with you guys.
Yeah,
you guys, your chat, a lot of them, you have like an audience capture. It's an echo chamber. There are people in your chat who even were like, "She's right on the stats." I don't know why you guys kicked her off.
Sims.
No, it's not about the stat. It's that you argue in bad faith about certain things. So, for example, right, that discussion in particular was, hey, marriage really isn't in your best interest as a man, period. And then you went ahead and pulled out this straw man of like, oh, well, it's because actually you do realize that like you don't want the age gap to be too much. And then educated women with a bachelor's degree actually have lower divorce rates.
No,
that doesn't take away from the point that marriage is not a good proposition for men in general.
Actually, how it happened was you were saying that a younger girl is more moldable and it's more successful to be in a relationship with a younger girl. And I was saying that if you have a 10-year age gap, your likelihood of divorce goes up by 40%. And that is just the stats. That was how that happened. And then we got into selection bias because I've tried to explain to you multiple times that if you're just looking at the women that are getting divorced and you're like 70% of women initiate divorces and it goes up for college-educated women. But in general, college-educated women are less likely to be in that group getting divorced in the first place. You didn't like that.
No, it's that, see how I said something that's objectively true and then you went ahead and you framed it in a way to make an argument for a stance that you have. I'm just saying younger women in general tend to be more impressionable, are going to follow your lead and they're better partners. And then you went ahead and took from that, oh, well, you know what? Actually, age gap, if once you pass a certain amount, the divorce rates actually go up.
Well, wouldn't that be
and
a
it's like,
good...
that doesn't, no, because see, that's what you do. I'm saying something and then you go ahead. You find something very tightly aligned, and you'll be like, "Oh, well, actually," and then you make a completely different argument.
No, it's not though, because if you're saying, well, I assume that you're saying those younger women are more moldable, therefore your relationship would be more successful. A good comeback to that is that the statistics show your relationship is less likely to be successful with a younger woman. That's why I brought it up. I think it's very relevant.
Well, she could be younger than you and still be within that age range that we're talking about that is below it. So she could still be younger than you.
Well,
still.
age, even a 5-year.
Both things can be true, but that's what I'm trying to say is that you argue in bad faith. Like,
How is that arguing in bad faith?
That's 100% arguing in bad faith because that doesn't actually challenge what I said. You're just countering it with something that doesn't really align with
Okay, well,
what
we
I'm
can
saying.
leave it up to the audience. I would say that if someone's giving the advice to date somebody younger, right, you guys are all like, I would say, and even a 5-year age gap, 10-year age gap, 20-year age gap, all of those increase your likelihood of the relationship not working out, divorce, like statistically. So maybe that's not the best advice. Maybe even though they're moldable, they're clearly not moldable enough because the likelihood of divorce is going up. So that's what I was saying. I don't think that's arguing in bad faith.
It is because I'm just saying, because you brought it to a completely different topic.
I don't think that's a different topic, but okay.
It's
not a different topic. When you're saying these younger women are more moldable and they're better, I'm saying then how come, it's like the same kind of arguments you make, then how come you're more likely to get divorced with those women? That's my question.
Well,
how is that not relevant?
It's on the age gap though.
There's also a demographic shift in that too. So if you're talking about a guy who's 50 and a woman who's 35, that's a whole lot different than if you're talking about a guy who's 40 and a woman who's like 25.
Well,
because if he's going to say that women are more moldable as like they get as they age, a woman who's 25 years old is going to be probably a little bit more, like, let's say, fresh and naive, I guess, well, a little less experienced, to put it nicely, than a woman who's 35, who's already got another 10 years on the woman who's 25. So is the 35-year-old woman also as moldable as a 25-year-old? And I would argue that that's not the case.
Well, and then the super young, like I'm sure if you guys actually are looking at stats, I think you do a good job of this. A woman younger than 25 is more likely to get divorces too. The good ages are 25 to 32 are the best ages to get married statistically for the least likelihood of divorce.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, that's not how it works right now. It's what is the average age of first marriage is 30 for women and 32 for men right now.
I get that, but a lot of this show is saying, oh, these younger women are better and they're moldable and blah, blah, blah. And I'm saying those younger women are actually, by following the advice of this show, you are putting yourself at a greater statistical likelihood of divorce. That was my argument.
Well, you're also, here's the thing, you're not taking everything into account. We also teach guys you need to be financially, aware. You need to be in shape. You need to have frame. You need to be a leader. You need to be dominant, etc. All these other things come into play, and then you go ahead and get the younger woman. So you're missing out all the other stuff that we're giving as advice.
Contextually, what I'd like to know is, so there's like a top 5 reasons for divorce, and the majority of the divorce is initiated by women. So my question is, where there's a larger age gap, what are those top 5 reasons? Are they the same top 5 reasons if you're talking about somebody who's 3 years apart?
3 years, I don't think there was any great statistical likelihood of your divorce going up for 3 years. But the 5-10 years, I think it was.
What I'm saying is like
are the reasons
yeah,
the same?
the reasons. Like for instance, I think domestic abuse is like third.
Yeah, like I know in general, like infidelity, lack of commitment, those are. But I don't know if I've seen any data specifically singling out the couples with the biggest age gap and why those couples specifically got divorced.
Yeah. So, like I said, because you're saying, because you're only taking one piece of information and saying, well, statistically speaking, the rates of divorce are, going to go up. Which that might be true, but if you follow the other things we teach, getting your money on point, getting in shape, having frame, not being a loser, not letting women lead, you know what I mean, like being dominant and assertive. That's going to make you way more attractive.
I mean, maybe, but I wouldn't. I haven't seen any data on that either. That if you're this and you're that and you're richer, then the woman that's 10 years likely is less likely, 10 years younger than you is less likely to divorce you. I think the money, because there is a lot of evidence that the more money you make up to a certain
around
point.
300K.
Yeah, and then it goes to like 600 and then it goes up and it's like a whole thing. But other than that, I haven't seen that fit men are less likely to get divorced or any of those other things you're saying. The money one is the only one that has statistical
I'm
significance.
curious how you measure fit men getting divorced.
I don't know.
Yeah,
That's why I'm
that would
asking.
be
No, you never would. But and there's probably never going to be a way to measure that. But what I am saying is that when you look at guys that get divorced or whatever, what happens? They don't see it coming. Why don't they see it coming? Because they don't understand female nature. They don't understand frame. They don't understand being
I see
attractive.
what you're saying, yeah.
So that's what I would use to measure it.
I think what he's saying is what you're saying is relevant, but the thing is, these are men who are just dating women because they're younger and they're still not prepared to date women at all, and so the difference in age gap is a problem. But you're saying if you're financially successful and you're able to lead, that this would not be an issue.
Yeah, because the thing is, when most guys get divorced, they don't see it coming a lot of the times. So when they don't see it coming, well, that tells me you don't know what the fuck is going on. You're unaware. You don't realize that you already lost a relationship years ago, months ago, whatever, and it's because you don't have frame.
I'd be curious as to, I think one of the main reasons why a woman who's like 15, 10, even 20 years younger than someone is marrying them, I think they would be financially stable, but maybe they're not.
Well, yeah, that's of course that's a component, but that's the problem because he relies on that too much.
With all due respect,
This is all speculation.
wait, I want to say something quickly. I think with all due respect, even if you have all those great things going for you, when it comes to people getting young and people getting married young in general, they're much more likely to divorce. And I think a big part of that is that your brain is fully not developed. Your long-term decision-making skills are not fully developed. So I think like even if you're like this amazing guy, if you're getting married with a woman who's like too young, as she like matures and grows older and that part of her brain changes, she might start making different decisions. So I think that's another reason to keep in mind that like, hey, maybe waiting like a little bit later is a better choice because she's more emotionally and mentally mature and can make stable decisions.
Yeah, and 25, I think that's literally 25, 26 is when the prefrontal cortex fully develops.
Right.
So
That's funny you should say that. Couples who marry before age 32 experience lower divorce rates.
Well, look at between 25.
There's a sweet spot in terms of marital age for those looking for the least risk of divorce. That's because couples who marry at 25 are 50% less likely to divorce compared with couples who marry at 20. But those who marry after age 32, divorce rates increase by 5% per year until the age they are wed.
Yeah, that's why I said 25 to 32. So that
So
lines
younger,
with exactly what I said.
25 is the sweet spot, right?
Yeah, 25 to 32. People, when they say, oh no, get a woman as like young as possible, 18, that's when you start running into the fact that her brain's not fully developed. So you can be this amazing person, she's still not fully emotionally, mentally matured.
Between 18 and 28 is when women are in their party or their whole phase, and as it is anyways. That's when they're at their
Here's the
peak
thing.
agency.
What's better, for her to be molded by society or be molded by you? Yeah, she's impressionable at that point, and she isn't like fully developed, as you guys would say. But why not develop her under your frame, where she understands through your lens how to operate, how to move, how to behave, etc. I think it's better for me to take her when she's still impressionable and mold her into the woman that I want versus society doing it for me. Let's be honest, society's going to turn her into a promiscuous whore that thinks that it's okay to sleep around and do a bunch of stupid shit and have indiscriminate sex with the highest status guys that she can get, and then she's going to be fucked up when I get her.
Well, I think the point is that even if you try to mold her, just because like mentally she's not fully developed, she might be making these choices with you that once her prefrontal cortex is fully developed, she'd be making different choices. So it's like, okay, like you can still find a partner that has your same values aligned, that you don't risk the whole idea of like, oh no, now you have the mental maturity, things have changed, the brain chemistry has changed, and now you have that risk. So I think it's a little bit less riskier to find.
Could the risk be because men find her the most attractive in that time period between, let's just say, 18 and 23, that also her relative attractiveness, she's aware of it because of, let me say, social media, that makes it more likely for her to want to divorce. You saying that?
No, I think the risk is literally just the fact that since the prefrontal cortex isn't like fully developed and hasn't slowed down yet, like if people find her attractive, don't find her attractive, it's just not the same level of decision making, a 23-year-old making a decision as like a 25-year-old.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Like so for instance, her ability to determine this is wrong, I'm in a relationship and I shouldn't be doing this, is not fully formed before the age of 25. So even though she's more attractive to most men, her ability to stay in the relationship is going to be harder for her because she's under the age of 25.
So do you think they're all divorcing under the age of 25 too? Because I think the average amount of years people are married is like 7 years. So are you saying that
5 to 9, so 7.
Yeah. So are these people that are marrying at like 19? You're saying they're getting divorced?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking. I'm saying the proposition of, is that one of the reasons why you think that the divorce rate would be higher with a greater difference in age?
Why do you think? Is that why you think? I don't know.
It could be. I mean,
Okay.
because like we want them more, but that means they have more options.
So in that case, they would need to be divorcing while they're still in their peak ages. So that
It could be.
So
I mean, so
I'd be
7 years.
interested in seeing that.
18 to 25 is 7 years.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know. If
And
that's
also keep
their-
in mind, women are fairly delusional as to like where their sexual market value peak actually is. Women tend to think it's 5 to 10 years actually what it really is.
So then that would be going kind of against it, wouldn't it?
No, but you're saying they'll like you said women will divorce at like what 25 to 32.
No, I said 25 to 32 is the best ages where they'll be least likely to divorce. Under 25 has a higher likelihood, and over 32 has a higher likelihood.
Sorry, hero. Well, the other thing too is that I would say the internet, right? The grass is
Well, that's the whole. When
grass
I'm
is
looking at
greener.
the study
Sorry,
right there,
go
it's comparative to where we were like in the 20th century versus the 21st century. So if you look at divorce rates, they tend to be going down because fewer and fewer people are actually getting married in the first place. So we're at the lowest rate of marriage in like recorded history, like 5.1 per 1,000 or 6. I think we might have come up to 6 recently, but it was at 5.1. And has gone steadily down since 1965 when hormonal birth control was introduced.
Do you know
There's a huge
do you
disparity.
know the one group of women where it's not going down for though? It is highly educated women and women of high socioeconomic.
Yes, because
we're
because
only
they have
women.
more resources to lose. That's why.
But still,
What?
so there's validity in what you're saying, but also the ones who do get divorced are the ones who are college educated. So the stats reflect in both
No,
ways.
they're not,
but-
though.
so the ones who are least likely to get divorced are the ones who are college educated, but then the ones who get divorced, the majority of them are the college educated
That
ones.
doesn't make sense.
No. So two different stats. Think about it. Separate your brain. The ones who, so you're saying that there are women who are college educated. They are the least likely to get divorced. But of the ones who do get divorced, the majority of those women who do get divorced are college educated. You get it now?
I would say that those women that are, yes, I think if you're college educated, you have
separated.
resources, you're going to be less likely to stay in a shitty situation for money. I agree with you there.
Okay, but you see how they're saying that the stats play out from that perspective as well. And another thing that I want to mention is I think the disparity when we're talking about these stats is like, when you're talking about people breaking up at these ages, most of them aren't being taught this information about how to be a high value man, how to exemplify these various different characteristics. So what they're talking
what I
about
was trying to say,
comes from a totally different frame versus the statistics that we're looking at for most divorces or separations or whatever it may be.
I'm just saying, like, if you want to lower your likelihood of divorce, the 3 things you should be doing is a woman who's between 25 and 32. It's her first marriage and she's college educated. If you can get someone with my level of education, the divorce rate cuts in half. Highly educated people, one, we're getting married more than everyone else is going down. We're going up. This is the best thing you can do. If you want to have a long marriage, go get college educated, marry between 25 and 32.
What about a woman's previous sexual partners before she's married?
So there's that. Are you talking about the Institute of Family Studies? So I guess in that case, yeah, after 9 or 10, it goes up, but 2 is apparently the worst. If you have 2 partners, you should have sex with a few more, and then you'll be in the sweet spot, I guess.
What I meant before was the concept of, I don't know if you can pull up that study, but
The new one, right?
yeah. So when they surveyed women, they surveyed 7,000 women, and they asked them, the ones who said that they cheated and the ones who said they didn't cheat. The ones who did cheat said that they had had sex with about 9 partners, and the ones who didn't cheat, it was about 3.8. And so it was 230% more sexual partners for women who did cheat than didn't.
Yeah, so I agree. High
Mike.
body count does increase your likelihood of divorce, but actually that isn't as significant as the 3. I said the top 3 things. That's not the only 3 things you
Right.
should look for. So I think that's totally fine. If you are somebody who's like, I really don't want to get divorced, blah, 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 I want to find someone who's like, if you are virgins getting married, have the least likelihood of divorce, you can do all that. But to say, oh, I'm only going to look at body count, but then I want a girl who's 19, not college educated, blah, 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 you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot is what I'm saying, statistically.
Well, here's the thing, because you were saying like, oh yeah, that's actually bad advice because you guys tell guys to get women that are young but in their peak years, 18 and 23. What I'm saying is that that's just one component of what we tell guys to do. But on top of that, right, that ability to do that is contingent upon your skill set as a man and your competence. Are you getting money? Are you in shape, etc.? Are you actually more than likely the best option that she can get compared to her peers? If the answer is yes, then you're going to be fine. Like, I get what you're saying. Well, actually,
Well, how do you know they're going to be fine? Do you just
What do you
feel
mean?
it? How do you, like, where are you getting that if you have your money right, etc.? Because I assume that if you're a 20-year-old and you're marrying a 35-year-old, you're not going to marry, and you're attractive, you're not marrying a broke 35-year-old, but you're still going to be likely to divorce him. So I'm curious as to why you think that.
Because what you're saying here is you're just going off of just strictly age, but on for average people too. Like, remember, keep in mind, a lot of these guys that are getting divorced, etc., they're fucking suckers. Oh, happy wife, happy life. My wife is the boss. Like all this bullshit that we've indoctrinated men to believe where women are leaders. They're not.
And do you think this is overrepresented in the group that's marrying younger women than the norm?
100%, because most men are simps, and most men don't understand what it takes to be attractive to women, because the things that make a man attractive are not politically correct, so it's not often taught. If you do teach guys these things, what happens? You get canceled, get called a misogynist, you get labeled like we are, where we're assholes. But we tell guys what it takes to really be attractive to women, and unfortunately, when you display these things, it's unfavorable to women because you start to reveal the unflattering realities about female nature. Women want the best guy. Women want a guy that's better than them in every single regard. Women are very surface level when you actually look at what they're attracted to. Women, what they're attracted to is actually way more linear than guys think from a physicality standpoint. So when you start to say these things, you get labeled a misogynist and they censor you. So most men have not had this information for decades.
So, but are simps more likely to marry a woman 10 years younger than them? That's my question. Like, if the divorce rate is higher for people that are marrying women 10, 15, 20 years younger than them, are those men more likely to be simps because they're more likely to get divorced?
What I'm saying is that the knowledge that we provide, because you're just looking at it from an age perspective. What I'm saying is that you can't just go ahead and say, I'm going to get a bad bitch that's 21 and not take in all the other stuff that we're giving, because yes, you will get divorced. But what I'm saying is that the guys that you're talking about that are getting divorced off of this age gap, etc., they're not applying all the other things that we teach men.
How do you know that, though? How do you know they're less likely to apply it than
Because
people?
most people are average.
Because most guys,
Most people, most men and women are average.
Here's one piece of data. So Dr. Buss talks about this in The Evolution of Desire, about the May-December wedding.
Yeah.
And this has to do with the amount of mate guarding men do when the wife is significantly younger than them. And so what he's saying is, like, these are behaviors that generally we would consider, like, can we say simpy behaviors?
We're off Twitch. We're on YouTube and
it's just like being like overly reactive in the situation and not having boundaries to the point where they get like digging through their phone. If I had to dig through my girl's phone, I would just break up with her. Do you understand? And so the point is, this is essentially what Dr. Buss talks about. In these relationships, there's exceptional mate guarding, which comes off as like, kind of beta behavior. And so I think that kind of leads to what he's saying.
So then you would say that you are more likely to exhibit that beta behavior if you're marrying a woman that's way younger than you?
Well, the reason why is because she is so much.
I just want to know.
Right. So the point I'm trying to make is because she is more attractive to more men. Like the point at which she'd get more right swipes. This is just one data point. That's the reason why he would be more covetous of her. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if he had boundaries and had a fundamental understanding of his value and had the ability to understand, hey, I can move on. This won't,
enforce those boundaries.
Exactly. He had the ability to enforce those boundaries. He would be less likely to get divorced.
So, I mean, sure, that's speculative, but so you are saying then that, yeah, those men that are marrying women younger than them, you're speculating that maybe a reason for that could be what you're saying.
Well, if they act more simpy, yeah, I mean, that's what Dr. Buss would say, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, a majority of men are pussies. Let's just be.
But those men are also marrying women within their age range. My question is, I want to isolate the variable of age and then ask you guys why you think. So he gave one reason, maybe it's because of whatever you said.
Mate guarding.
Yeah, mate guarding. And we don't have any actual data, as far as I know, actually linking those two things.
Not likely to get it in this current environment.
So that's one reason. So I was just asking what your opinion was as to why, and maybe you have a similar opinion.
Yeah, hold on. This is all a big umbrella. You understand that mate guarding is a symptom of not understanding female nature appropriately. It's all the problem is not so okay. He gets money. marries a younger girl. Look at Al Pacino right now, right? Even though she's out of the range. I'm using it as an example, right? A woman that's significantly younger than him, getting divorced. So what happens a lot of times is guys don't understand their own value. They get with a girl, they pedestalize her. She thinks she's better than him, and then ends up leaving. I could do better.
So that's what I mean. The speculation.
And she wears the pants in a relationship. A lot of marriages, you ask the guy, why do you think the whole phrase "happy wife, happy life" is a thing?
Yeah, so I would say, like, that's one reason you guys are putting forth. That's one thing you're positing. I would agree with Pixie because we have a lot of other data that people don't make the best decisions and they change their mind when their prefrontal cortex isn't as developed. So I would say that's, if it was up to me, just because we know that affects their decision making and that they're more likely to regret things they do under 25, that would probably be a good reason for why they probably are getting divorced.
But what if that makes sense to what Myron's saying? Because if you're saying that women are more likely to get divorced because their prefrontal cortex is not developed, they're not able to make rational decisions, aren't they more likely to fuck that up by being led by outsider influences such as their young girlfriends, Instagram, these various things? And what we're talking about is it's not just on the basis of the stats that are out there. If you have a man who's actually going to lead you and guide you in the right direction, that's very, very different than the average age gap or disparity that we're seeing.
Getting married
especially
at
a man
25.
with means and is older and is better judge of character.
But also
and
cares
has-
about you and cares about your personal development
A
as
woman
well.
at 25
you know?
who's been socialized by society is less likely to get divorced, though. So I don't understand.
Yeah, but there's one other thing, because there's the Washington Post article that talks about May-December weddings and the difficulties of it, and that is the concept of, like, if, say, she's 25 and I'm 50, that's a 25-year difference. When the kids are in college, I'm going to be, 68 years old, and she's, however old she is, and there's a difference. And one thing that I think makes a difference is that 46 and being in shape is very different than the average 46-year-old man who's got a BMI of 50, whatever. So I think that's another issue in this case. And so that's the issue. Like, what I'm saying is, you get to a point where I can't play football with my son because I'm too old. But if you keep yourself in shape, then I don't think that would be as much of an issue.
Yeah, I'm sure if you keep yourself in shape and you stay attractive to your partner, your likelihood of divorce is lowered. I agree with that. But we don't know what to isolate here. All we know is that men who get married to women that are significantly younger than them, and the more younger they are, the higher your likelihood of divorce. Now, you guys are saying if you have enough money and blah, 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 although I would speculate that these women that are marrying, the 25-year-old who's marrying the 40-year-old is probably doing so because he's at least well off somewhat, because he's, so
She just thought I was funny.
High value man.
She thought
She just thought it was funny.
Sometimes our
Well, she's
attractiveness
a high value man.
comes with that as a byproduct as well. Don't you agree that when you see a man who's like confident, assertive, the attractiveness also comes as a byproduct of that, and may not necessarily be on the basis of wealth or this or that. It may be because there's a charisma,
But the point
or something
is-
that younger
wait,
people may not necessarily have.
But I think the point is that, like, you guys are already, by this basis of having a young woman marry an older man, he has to have some level of high value, right? Because then otherwise, why would the young woman marry that man?
Sure.
Yet despite this, we still see like a pretty high rate of failure. So the idea is that, like, hey, it doesn't necessarily matter if you're high value or not. There's a certain age where she's too young, her prefrontal cortex is still developing. You can guide her as much as you want, but it just comes down to simple brain chemistry. While when she's 25 past, she's more stable mentally, she is more congruent, and she's able to make those long-term decisions.
So here's the thing.
know,
having
Amy's
high
still kind of
value and having
wacky
game
right
are
now.
two different things. There's plenty of guys, and I don't want to make this very clear for the ladies too, just so we understand. Being a high value guy doesn't necessarily mean you're still good with women. There's plenty of guys that are high value, that have their shit together, have some status, have some respect, etc., but they're terrible with women.
Yeah, specifically, I remember, again, from Evolution of Desire, is the concept of, if I am in my 50s and she's 25, my ability to replace her is less. And that is what all of us, no matter if it's a 3-year age difference or a 25-year age difference, vehemently suggests men do not get into that situation. Not to leave your wife, but to at least be in enough shape, good enough shape, and to have enough charisma, and to have enough financial means to where if you had to, you could. Because if your wife believes fully that you're the best, she's the best you can do, and you could never replace her, then that's where we could end up in some of these problems.
Yeah, but like what Pixie and I are saying is that usually a woman who's 25, if she's marrying a 50-year-old, or a woman who's 20 who's marrying a 35-year-old, he usually has some of these things. That's what attracted her to him, right? If he had
so some of these things you're talking about money. We're talking about other things. So, like, for instance, an abundance when it comes to women, or an abundance when it comes to networking, or the ability to communicate, having some level of charisma, the ability to network, or having a sense of humor that other people find attractive. That network, those things right there, a lot of men won't have. Now, what happens is, because she, in his mind, she's much, much less much less replaceable. He can't get another 25-year-old girl, or he believes he can't. That's going to be a situation where she's more likely to leave. And in this situation, her from the outside looking in, or from the inside looking out, from her situation, she's getting a lot more right swipes. She's getting a lot more attention. She's receiving a lot more stimulus because of her age. And so those two things together may cause a higher divorce rate.
And this is where numbers and stats kind of collide with common sense. So I know, right, and I'm sure all of you know this, ladies, from your experience as a woman dealing with men in general, most men that come up to you probably aren't attractive, correct?
Yes.
Most guys that come up to you probably aren't attractive, maybe for different reasons. Maybe they're not cognitively high enough. Maybe they're not hot enough. Maybe they're not tall enough. Maybe they're not intelligent enough. Maybe they're not interesting or funny enough. So we can agree that women find most men unattractive. Now, let's go ahead and add in an extra part to like filter it out some more. Now, you don't find them physically attractive enough. Okay. Now, is he actually charismatic and charming and can you're attracted to him and you want to follow his lead, etc. So most guys don't qualify. So I know for a fact that most women are not attracted to most men. Fortunately, though, right, for some guys here, they're able to barter with other things. Maybe their money, maybe their status, etc. And they're able to get a girl to marry them. That's not going to last forever, though, because he didn't have the prerequisite skill set to actually be attractive from a holistic level. He was able to pull her with her money. He was able to pull her with his clout. He was able to pull her with maybe a mouthpiece, but he was a brokey. So what ends up happening is the girl, since the guy barely got her, right, she's like, oh, I don't fucking need this guy. And then the reason why, because you're saying, well, how do you know with the age gap that why she's leaving, etc.? Well, I know just off rip that most guys are simps. And most guys don't understand that they need to lead the relationship, especially in the West. You said earlier, right, that you like more liberal men? Mm-hmm. Okay. And I know you make a bunch of arguments for that, etc. You're a minority. Most women don't like how liberal men behave because most liberal men treat a relationship egalitarian. They think that men and women are equal. They go ahead and say, what do you think? What's your opinion? Most women don't want that. I know that that's what you want, but most women don't like that.
So you're saying most men are whatever, all this, you're true, but how you would have to explain my stat is by saying that those men are overrepresented in the group that are marrying younger women. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense because that would, if most men are simps, then most men who marry the women in the same age range are simps too. But for some reason, there's something.
That is true.
Yes.
Yeah, they are, but the divorce, you have to explain that by saying that the men who marry women younger than them are overrepresented in simpness.
Yes, because they're average. Hold on. And the reason why I can say that, the reason why I can say that so conclusively is because I know that most men don't understand female nature. So the men that are polled, that are getting married to these younger women that are getting divorced, right? But that with this age gap that you're describing, what I'm saying is that they might have pulled her with one skill set, maybe two skill sets. Maybe they had money, but they were charming, but they're ugly or whatever. Who knows? The point I'm trying to make is that this age gap doesn't account for their ability to be a leader and be attractive in other facets because women have a multivariate analysis of what they like.
But what I'm saying is those men that are marrying women younger to them have to be less likely than people who are marrying people in the same age for it to make sense why they're getting divorced at higher rates.
They're average guys.
Yeah, but the average guys are also marrying women in their age range. Are they more average if they're marrying someone younger than them? That's what I'm...
No. There's a baseline here, and most guys are average. So by default, just because he's marrying a lower age woman doesn't mean
we're talking about average as far as like being attractive and understanding female. I'm not talking about socioeconomics. I'm talking like they have certain preconceived thoughts where they just don't have attractive traits in their behavior. That's what I'm saying.
And are those men to be more likely to marry women younger than them than men who don't have the men who have charm? That's my question.
They think marrying a woman that's younger is gonna be better for them, but by default, they're still a simp. They still don't understand women naturally.
Are men who marry women younger than them more likely to exhibit simp traits than a man who marries a woman 25 and older and generally in the same age range that has a less statistical
I want to know what the age differential we're talking about here because we really need to clarify that.
So
it's one, like I said, it's one
10
thing if
years,
a guy's
basically.
like, okay, so 10 years.
10 years increases your likelihood of divorce by 40%.
Because right, statistically speaking, women tend to they desire anyways, guys who are anywhere between 3 to 7 years older than they are. So it comes out to around about 5 years as the difference. Are we talking if the guy's 5 years difference? Are we now in a different category?
So you are, but the likelihood of divorce is still higher than if you marry someone within 3 years. But 10 years is when 10 years it goes up by 40%. That's quite a big difference. So I would say a lot of you guys are in your 30s, and you guys, at least some of the stuff I've heard, oh, I want a woman who's 20, 21, 22. That woman is more likely to divorce you than a woman at 25 is. That's what I'm saying.
If you're a regular guy.
Yeah.
But you
If you're a regular guy, you're excluding all the other advice we give. Yeah. You're excluding. You're saying, okay, statistically speaking, if you're a regular guy and you get with a girl 10 years or above, you have a higher chance of getting divorced.
Yeah.
True. However, if you implement all the other things we teach on this podcast, with understanding frame, understanding what arouses women versus what attracts them, the difference between that, getting your money on point, getting in the gym, being attractive, understanding how tonality, how to speak to a woman properly, right? Speaking to her in a certain type of way versus speaking to a woman versus speaking to a man. If you understand all these things, that's going to significantly reduce.
But wouldn't that reduce it for everybody? So my question is,
no.
here's
the thing. The difference is, I forget if it's called attractiveness differential or attractiveness quotient or attractiveness quotient differential, something like that. They talk about it in evolutionary psychology. The difference, it's not just his simpiness versus her attractiveness. It is the delta between the two that then makes him more simpy. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I get it. So I agree with you because relationships last longer when you marry somebody or you're with somebody of kind of equal attractiveness.
For sure, because there's a leverage point. I do have a question though for you, kind of on the same line. You would agree, I mean, obviously we're talking about here, that women would just in general be able to get more attention from guys than the other way around, right? That's a leverage point in a relationship. Meaning, like, if she wanted casual sex, she could get it faster than, like, a celebrity, right? Okay, in that instance, do you believe that a more successful relationship would be for a woman to be more into her man than the other way around?
I would say that personally, I think it should be a partnership.
But if it is a partnership and she has the leverage point of being able to get so much more attention, like we talked about in this May-December wedding, do you see how that's a problem? Like, she has this leverage point that he doesn't have.
And more access, a lot more access versus the opposite.
It depends on the person. Like, I don't think that just having leverage or access to other people means that now that needs to be leveled out by you liking this guy more than...
Right, but he doesn't have this leverage point that she does have. Do you understand? Okay, I guess another question would be, do you think a successful relationship or relationship would be more likely to be successful if a man leads in a relationship?
I don't think so.
You don't think a relationship would be more successful if a man leads?
No.
There you go.
I don't think there's any.
It is impossible.
So again,
I don't understand.
I don't necessarily think it's less successful. So a lot of times, like leading, I mean, I don't know what that really looks like or means, but like a lot of traditional conservatives, they do have marriages that last longer, but that has been attributed, at least from the research, to going to church. These kinds of things make you more likely. I haven't seen anything saying like,
what's the bottom line of church and religion?
In the church, that would be the thing, is that the man leads.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Three major religions on the planet.
I would say that you also think you take marriage more seriously. You think it's a celestial bond from God.
Sure.
Like those things are going to make you take marriage. And, it's not just
let's not forget, Hindus have the lowest divorce rate.
Well, they're arranged marriages.
Shout out to our Hindu brothers.
I mean, in the Middle East, I'm Middle Eastern. My parents were both immigrants from Iran. They just don't get divorced.
Okay, so you don't believe that a man should lead in a relationship?
I think it depends on the people in the relationship. Some women, they like that, and I think those relationships can be just as happy and work out. And I think in other relationships, they want it to be more egalitarian.
Would you agree that it's a majority, like a staggering majority of women that prefer the man to lead?
I don't think it's a staggering majority. I don't think so.
I'm sorry. I'm confused of what you guys mean by lead.
Me too.
Right?
So I'm just
okay. Let me go ahead and define it. The man is the primary decision maker. He can go ahead and get his woman's opinion. However, any serious decision is made by the man. Moving, anything like that. He is the predominant breadwinner. The woman works from an elective standpoint, and he's dominant and assertive and a bunch of other, masculine traits that we tend to know.
So one of the reasons, and Rollo brings this up sometimes, is that one of the precipitators of divorce would be if she starts making more money than him.
He does.
Right? So again, now we have two leverage points. She makes more money than him, and she, by default, gets more attention than him. And so now he has lost on two leverage points, and the likelihood of divorce increases. That's why we're bringing this up. Can you see, like, on average, you think most women would want a man to lead? Would you at least say most?
It depends what you mean by lead. Like when you say make all the decisions.
Not make all the decisions. We're still obviously
the
going to
final
consult.
decision maker.
Yeah, I don't
he
think
can consult with his wife.
The authority in the marriage.
I have not seen any data to back this up, and definitely anecdotally, which is the only things I can go off of. I haven't seen instances of when the man is more likely to do that. Now, I think where you can make a correlation is that traditional conservative people, they all also more likely to go, because we have that.
Yeah.
We know that people who go to church more, who are more religious, are more likely to stay married.
Yeah.
And those relationships may typically take on that traditional provider and homemaker role more. And I have no problem with those kind of relationships. I just don't like a one size fits all, because I don't think people.
Can we do
Of course, not one size fits all, but there's definitely a one size fits most.
But where are you getting most? Like what?
Okay, look. The thing is that if you look at what women are attracted to, right? The things that women are attracted to all symbolize superiority. So if the guy is going to be superior in every way, from a physicality standpoint, a competence standpoint, etc., it would make sense that he leads. Women find it I mean, even if you look at like women, I want a guy that plans a date. I want a guy that pays. When you look at the things that women are attracted to, the man is almost always controlling the frame.
Again, you were talking about anecdotal. I'll just say anecdotal too. 46. If I were in a situation where I consistently were like, yeah, honey, you make the decisions and all these things, I would get left. Like I just can't think of a single
in
exception.
your relationship, but like I'm a lawyer and I like in those kind of like my friends that are also pretty, they have like partnerships. It's not like the male.
That's the minority though.
But what I mean is, where are you getting the most though? Because also you're saying, yeah, they want men who are superior than them and competence. I'm not seeing that in any way. In fact, education, because the gap is reversed. A lot of time, like now they've done all these studies where women are more okay with men making one less money and also.
Well, they kind of have to be because
they have to be,
68% of college
And
graduates are
isn't society
female.
more degenerate than ever and all these other negative
No, I
repercussions?
don't think we just evolutionary malfunction in 2020.
Pixie, go ahead.
Thank you. I kind of do want to push back on the income standpoint because like that data point becomes like a lot more varied when you research into it. So for example, when you ask women like, oh, are they okay or do they want the man to make more income, or what happens when the woman makes more income? Well, in a lot of cases, she's making more income, but she's expected to do the same amount of household labor as before. So now she's being the breadwinner and she's doing all the household chores. So then in those cases, the woman feels dissatisfied in the relationship because she feels like too much of the burden of labor is on
just out
her,
of curiosity,
for example.
do you feel like say from an evolutionary standpoint, women just have a proclivity to feel more dissatisfied in a relationship than a man?
I'm not sure.
So the reason why is because there's actual studies on where you can control for men and women, which would be comparing the divorce rate for lesbian couples than you would for homosexual couples. And in those relationships, lesbians get divorced at 200% the rate that homosexual men do.
And they're way more violent as well. They like beat each other.
Wait, that's also a really weird stat because it could also be that like lesbian couples are more likely to like, let's say, report on domestic violence while men are
that. Yeah, I agree with you with the domestic violence
part,
I personally think they're not strong enough to knock each other out. That's why I keep fighting each other. But my point is, even when they don't have men to blame, they leave marriages more than men do. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm just not sure if that's like I think it's kind of weird when we take into like different sexual orientation because I don't know if like necessarily like, the dynamics of interest changes there. Like lesbians are attracted to other women, so they're attracted to other feminine qualities. Like I'd rather focus on straight relationships, although I understand where you're coming from.
Well, in lesbian relationships, there's typically a dominant. There's still a masculine and a feminine in a lot of. There's a stud. So like from a role standpoint, it's still there. There's still a masculine and feminine. It's just that everything so many studies show this. Women just tend to get bored in relationships faster than men, significantly faster.
But hold up. The thing is, we're not blaming you. We're saying, do you understand from an evolutionary standpoint what that would have to be? We lived in the 15th century where Kublai Khan and Genghis Khan killed 10% of the human population. They would murder the men and then they would take new wives. Those women had a choice. I'm either going to take a new husband or I'm going to die. There are different points to our evolutionary history where women had to monkey branch from one man to another.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're saying, oh, women get dissatisfied faster. But regardless of that, we can still acknowledge that, hey, if a woman is gaining a greater income and is also still doing a greater majority of the household chores, that's going to contribute to her dissatisfaction because she just feels like the scales are so uneven. But when it comes to the cases of like, oh no, men doing the same or more amount of household chores and she's maybe making less or same income, there's variables that you can play here where the woman doesn't feel as dissatisfied. That's what I'm trying to convey.
I think because okay, I see what you're saying. She's making money and she's coming home to do homemaking stuff. Cool. But I think the more important thing here is that her being in the breadwinner position is really the main focal point where the issues arise. Because women don't really do that well when they're in a breadwinner position with a man.
And
they just don't.
And they don't want to be, by the way.
You know, and again, I know Jasmine's going to say, well, that's not, etc.
Well,
and you're going to use your personal
It's because both of them have an egalitarian ideal for a relationship or an egalitarian ideal for a marriage.
Real quick, because I want to get, hold on. I want to get the girls involved here.
A conservative thing is more hierarchical.